Have you ever considered a question, when did ancient humans actually learn to ride horses? Okay, stop for a second. I need you to picture a horse. Not the friendly one from a petting zoo. I mean a real, wild horse. 1,000 pounds of pure muscle. Twitchy. Terrified of everything. It has a blind spot right in front of its own nose, and its entire nervous system is wired for one job: run before something eats you. Now here's the wild part. For most of human history, that animal was not a friend. It was dinner. Fast-moving meat on 4 legs. So how on earth did we go from hunting this creature to sitting on its back and letting it carry us across entire continents? That leap is one of the strangest, most painful, most world-changing things our ancestors ever did. And the truth of when it actually happened is way messier than you are probably taught. Let's start with the clue everyone gets excited about first. Rewind to around 3500 BCE, to the brutal, wind-scoured steppes of what is now Kazakhstan. There's a group called the Botai, and for years, archaeologists were convinced these were the people, the first riders, the tidy beginning of the whole story. And honestly, the evidence is genuinely thrilling. In 2009, researchers took ancient pottery fragments, roughly 5,500 years old, and analyzed the residue baked into the clay. And what did they find? Mare's milk. Fermented horse milk, actually. An early version of a drink called kumis. Now think about that. You do not walk up to a wild, kicking, panicking mare and casually milk her. That is a death wish. To get milk, you have to have tamed her, to have her stand still, to trust you, or at least tolerate you. And it gets better. They found wear marks on horse teeth, the kind you'd expect from an early rope bit slipped into the mouth. They found chemical traces of enormous manure piles, the signature of corrals, of animals penned and kept. So it really looks like the Botai were the pioneers. They were probably riding these horses to hunt other horses. Imagine that, chasing your prey while sitting on its own species. It's brilliant and eerie at the same time. But here comes the twist that flipped the entire field on its head. In 2018, a genetic study looked at the DNA of Botai horses and compared it to the horses we ride today. And the result? No connection. The Botai horses were a dead end, a branch that led nowhere. In fact, their descendants didn't become our racehorses or plow horses at all. They eventually went feral and became today's endangered Przewalski's horses, those stocky, wild little horses you might have seen in a documentary. So the Botai may have tamed and even ridden horses, but their lineage did not conquer the world. They were a fascinating experiment that fizzled out. Which leaves us with a burning question. If not them, then who? And this is where the real story kicks in. Around 3000 BCE, a new group comes sweeping across the Eurasian steppe, the Yamnaya, semi-nomadic, restless, hungry for grass and space. These are the true ancestors of horseback riding as we know it. And we don't just guess this from pottery, we know it because of their bones, their actual, aching, deformed human bones. In 2023, a study came out in Science Advances that gives me chills every time I think about it. Bioanthropologists examined 5,000-year-old skeletons pulled from burial mounds across Romania, Bulgaria, and Hungary. And they found a pattern so consistent they gave it a name: horsemanship syndrome. These people had been physically reshaped by riding. Their skeletons were permanently marked by the horse. Let me tell you what that actually looks like, because it's brutal. On the pelvis and the thigh bones, they found thickened, overgrown attachment points, the body's response to constantly gripping a horse with your legs. Bareback, no saddle, just raw muscle clamping down for dear life. They found altered hip sockets worn from the strain. They found severe spinal degeneration, the spine slowly breaking down from years of that relentless, jarring bounce of a trotting horse. No stirrups to stand in, no cushion, just your spine absorbing every single impact, mile after mile. And some of these skeletons, they showed healed fractures, injuries that look almost identical to modern rodeo injuries, the kind you get from being violently bucked off or trampled under those heavy hooves. Think about what that means. These riders were getting hurt, badly, and getting back on. Because remember what a horse is. Climbing onto a half-wild steppe horse bareback was like trying to ride a nervous motorcycle that genuinely believes you are a mountain lion trying to kill it. Every ride was a negotiation with a terrified 1,000-pound animal. So why? Why endure that agony? Why let your own bones warp and crack? Because it unlocked something that looked almost like a superpower. Here's the math. A human on foot, walking, can only manage a small flock. You can't be everywhere at once. But a human on horseback? That rider can guard enormous herds of cattle and sheep. You can scout the horizon. You can chase down strays. You can cover in an hour what used to take a day. Suddenly, that endless ocean of grass, the steppe that stretched forever, wasn't empty and useless. It became a calorie-rich highway. Grass into livestock, livestock into food and wealth, all made possible by the horse. And the Yamnaya exploded outward. They spread their culture, their genes, their language across more than 3,000 miles in just a century or two. Riding through pain, they became one of the most influential peoples in human history. Their DNA is in millions of us today, all because they refused to get off the horse. But riding bareback was only the first gear. The Yamnaya had another trick. They paired their new mounted herding with heavy wooden wagons rolling on solid disc-shaped wheels. Picture it. Slow, sturdy oxen dragging the family wagons packed with everything they owned. And around them, the mounted riders, darting, herding, watching the edges of the world. A whole mobile society on the move. That combination, riders plus wagons, meant they could pick up their entire lives and go. Anywhere the grass grew. And then, about 1,000 years later, around 2000 BCE, everything changed again. A steppe culture called the Sintashta figured out something incredible. They learned to steam and bend wood. And with that skill, they built the spoke-wheeled chariot. Lightweight, fast, nothing like those clunky solid wheels. Hitch that to a stronger, faster, newly bred line of horses, and the horse transforms one more time. It stops being a humble herding tool. It becomes a terrifying, high-speed engine of war. Chariots thundered out across the ancient world, from the armies of Egypt to the kingdoms of China. Empires rose and fell on the back of this technology. The prey animal was now the ultimate weapon. But there was still one piece missing: control. Think about it. Those early Yamnaya riders were basically hanging on, clinging to the mane, using simple leather halters that rotted away in the ground, which is partly why the evidence is so hard to find. Steering a half-ton animal with a rope and a prayer. So humans got clever, and they found a secret hidden in the horse's own mouth. Between the front teeth and the back teeth, there's a gap, a toothless, sensitive stretch of gum called the bars of the mouth. And someone discovered that if you slip a bit right there, a piece of bronze, later iron, you suddenly have power steering over an enormous animal. A gentle pull, and the horse responds. That single innovation gave riders real, precise command for the first time. Then came the saddle. Masters of the horse, like the Scythians, developed early leather saddles that spread the rider's weight, sparing that battered spine we talked about. And finally, the last great piece. Around the time of the Jin dynasty in China, someone forged the metal stirrup. And this was revolutionary. The stirrup locked the rider in place. It shifted your center of gravity, gave you leverage, let you brace and strike. Now, an armored knight could charge with a lance and not fly off backward. Now, a horse archer could twist and fire arrows at a full gallop without tumbling to the ground. War would never be the same. So just look at the whole arc of it. It starts as a faint smudge of fermented milk, baked into a broken pot on the cold Kazakh steppe. It passes through the twisted, aching, fractured bones of the Yamnaya, people who literally let the horse reshape their bodies. It rolls forward on solid wooden wheels, then screams into battle on light-spoked chariots. And it ends with a forged iron stirrup that put a rider firmly, finally, in control. And through all those small, painful, incredible steps, the horse became something no other animal ever was to us. Not just food, Not just a tool, it became the absolute center of human trade, of agriculture, of warfare for the next 5,000 years. Our engine, our messenger, our partner in building the world. So the next time you see a horse standing calm in a field, remember the whole hidden story it carries. Remember it was once just fast-moving meat with a blind spot in front of its nose. And remember the stubborn, aching, brilliant humans who climbed on anyway, over and over, until a wild prey animal carried us all the way into history.